My name is Marie Maher-Penny. I am co-chair of the Women's Association. First, let me extend a sincere and warm welcome to each and every one of you, my fellow Women's Association members, which are all the women of this church, our menfolk, and any of you who may be here for the very first time. I hope that you find a home here as I have with my family. When we were asked at the Women's Association, when we were asked by Jill Hinton-Wolfe and Todd Johnson to be part of the 150 celebration of our church, we knew we had to celebrate women. The history of the Women's Association is the history of Fountain Street Church. From a small group of women to the organisation known as the Working Women's Society in 1890 to the name change in 1950. The Women's Association is proud to be the oldest organisation in our church. So women have played an important and vital role in the life of this church, and who better to celebrate that than the Women's Association? We have only touched a little on some of the women of our church, but know that all of you have been an important part of this church and will be in the coming years. I hope you all enjoy this service and reach out to one of us if you're interested to get involved with the Women's Association. We always are looking for eager volunteers. I'm also here, I usually am here this time of the year to plug stuff, so here I go, I'm plugging stuff. We're looking for money. We're very happy to mention the Choice Fund fundraiser, the Betsy's Bash, which will be on Tuesday the 12th at 6 p.m. in the social hall. This is a situation of third time lucky. They have had to cancel twice, and the funds are so needed. That's why we're doing it we're going for the third time. If we don't have this, we don't have the funds, and women don't get the help because this is our last big fundraiser of the year. So we ask you to dig deep and help out, and that would be, and attend and celebrate women. That would be a wonderful thing. Our annual Irish soup lunch is next Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, Lála Pádraig. We will have probably 3 types of soup. We're doing an Irish fish chowder. We'll probably do the usual corned beef and cabbage, not my choice. And we'll do a vegetarian, probably a potato leek. And lots of other goodies with it as well. And the price will be $6 a person and $18 a family. It's the best deal in town. And we have live Irish music as well. So it's always a good thing. So I hope you all enjoy the program today. Thank you all so much for attending. Thank you.
Your loving is a miracle. The hymns this morning were chosen because they were all written by women. Please join in singing hymn number 354. quotations that we share now, and all quotes included today, were written by women who have spoken at Fountain Street Church. Please join me in the responsive reading found in your order of service. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. The world of the future is already. Remember always that you have not only the right to be an individual, you have the obligation to be one. You cannot make any useful contribution in life unless you do this. There is no greater gift than thinking that you have had some impact on the world for the better. It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe it. And it isn't enough to believe it. One must work at it. Go where there is silence and say something. Every social justice movement that I know of has come out of people sitting in small groups, telling their life stories, discovering that other people have shared experiences. Justice cannot be for one side alone, but must be for both. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept.
Makes
Headline: June 1886. Annie Ryan and Annie Hindle, traveling vaudeville performers, marry in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Fountain Street Baptist Church minister performs ceremony. Headline: May 22nd, 1917. Fire destroys Fountain Street Baptist Church. Working Women's Society rescues sewing machines to continue war effort for Red Cross. The move to the Masonic Temple on Fulton Street allowed the women to keep making bandages, dressings, and garments known as comfortables for the hospitals. Fundraising activities begin to build a new church. 8-year-old girl watches church burn. Elizabeth Knapp, years later, recalled that day in 1917. Known as Blessed Izzy, she was a lifelong member of Fountain Street Church, taught at South High School and Grand Rapids Junior College, sang in the choir, served on the governing board and pulpit committee, was involved in the League of Women Voters, and kept the history of Fountain Street Church in her head. She was one of the first archivists of this church. A painting by Matthias Alton of the burning church is located outside of the Dorothy Evenson Chapel. Headline: 3 presidents of Working Women's Society inspire women of Fountain Street Baptist Church to twice pledge $30,000 as final payment for new church. Church sales, bazaars, all-day workshops making beautiful quilts, children's clothing, layettes, tablecloths, hem-stitched towels, and above all, preparing and serving meals to community groups filled the coffers of the society and allowed them to pay off the mortgage. 1928, the stained glass window of the parables is dedicated to the women of Fountain Street Church. Funds for the window, $9,000, were donated by the Working Women's Society, which earned the money by their continuing projects and activities. There were few restaurants in Grand Rapids at that time, so money-making meals helped the church as well as the community. Cost of the stained glass window today? Priceless.
Headline: Doctors develop whooping cough vaccine. Dr. Pearl Kendrick, Dr. Grace Eldering met on the job at the Michigan Department of Health's Bureau Laboratories in the early part of the 1930s Depression. During the day, they worked on tests on signs for tuberculosis in water and milk of 26 counties in Michigan. Their midnight job, with permission to use the labs in Grand Rapids, involved trying to create a vaccine for whooping cough, pertussis, which at that time killed at least 6,000 children a year, and thousands of others got the disease. By 1935, they did a huge clinical study in Grand Rapids that was successful. At that time, when African Americans found it hard to find jobs in their actual professions, Kendrick and Elderly employed Lanny Clinton Gordon as a researcher. She found the key component to make the vaccine completely viable, after which the vaccine nearly wiped out the disease. The doctors went on to create the DPT vaccine, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, which we all hopefully still receive today. But despite great odds, they saw a problem and solved it. Headline, 1958, Eleanor Roosevelt speaks at Fountain Street Church and invites Fountain Club teenagers to her home in Hyde Park, New York. Headline, 1963, Fountain Club visits Washington, D.C., interviews Bobby Kennedy, Pierre Salinger, and Supreme Court Chief Justice Earl Warren. Headline, 1950s and 60s, Elvina Carroll runs dining services for church and community. Mrs. Carroll, kitchen supervisor and cook at Fountain Street Church, served money-making meals to community groups such as church groups, the businessmen in Grand Rapids, as well as graduating classes from high schools. Some of her favorite meals included Swiss steak, potatoes and gravy, green beans, and Jell-O. Shepherd's pie, pork chops with 1/2 grilled grapefruit, flourless cake, and Jell-O. Mac and cheese, chicken casserole, bacon-wrapped dates, chicken divan, Swedish meatballs with noodles, fruit and fondue, and of course, Jell-O.
Headline, Amy Lewis hired as drama director at Fountain Street Baptist Church, 1939 until 1947. An actress and drama director nationwide, Miss Loomis was active with the Grand Rapids Civic Theater and left a legacy that encouraged the dramatic in church services. At one time, there were 6 drama guilds in the church. Loomis interacted with other artistic people in the community, one being Betty Bloomer. We remember her as Betty Ford, First Lady of the United States. Amy Lewis died in 1993 at the age of 92. Now it's 2004. Headline, Marty Childs named first recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award by Grand Rapids Theater Community. Marty, active church member and Women's Association board president, was a retired drama instructor for the Grand Rapids Public Schools. She gifted our character school children with the love of creative play and performance theater. For 60 years, she worked backstage crewing, onstage acting, as well as directing and teaching in Grand Rapids local theaters. Marty was nominated for several grand awards, the last one for the starring role in 4,000 Miles, October 2014 at Actors Theater at the age of 91. It was her last play. Marty Childs died in July 2015.
Bicentennial. Twin sisters donate bells for Fountain Street Church. Ina and Ayala Krumheyer took their first teaching jobs in physical education in 1917 at a salary of $600 a year. They taught the subjects they loved both. In their senior year of high school, their father, a motorman for the trolley system, died tragically at the age of 49 in an on-the-job related accident. To realize a college education, they took turns going to Western Michigan. They waitressed at resorts during the summer, and during the year, one went to college while the other stayed home with Mom and helped with her tailoring business. Their love of learning never stopped, and they completed their bachelor's and master's degrees in science from Eastern Michigan University and Columbia. Ina and Isla lived very modestly on their teachers' salaries, and after 42 years of teaching, they both retired at the same time. They were devoted members of Fountain Street Church for 50 years and wanted to leave a gift that would, quote, outlast us all. Their gift were the 6 cast bronze bells in the tower, a gift every member of the church still enjoys today. So now on Friday at 5 o'clock, on special occasions like weddings, and every Sunday morning you can hear them ring. The love of music, drama, art, and architecture by the women of Fountain Street Church can be found and felt everywhere around this church. Headline: October 1976. Woman rides wrecking ball to protest old City Hall demolition. Sometimes you can't fight City Hall to save City Hall, but you can try. Mary Stiles Kimmel sported an orange jumpsuit, straddled the wrecking ball with chains, and clutched a sign, "Save Our Tower." The moment, reprinted in newspapers around the globe, became a symbol of the historic preservation movement, which helped turn the tide against the wave of urban renewal demolition. Fountain Street members Susie Logie and Ann Logan were also instrumental in founding the movement in Grand Rapids.
Headline: Then. Over the many years, there were many divisions, then guilds, at Fountain Street Church. Each one was established when and where there was a need to serve our church members and our community. In 2015, the Women's Association and the leaders of the districts joined to create a guild that continues the legacy of honoring the lives of our loved ones. The Memorial Guild of Fountain Street Church, through its memorial services and receptions, brings our families, our friends, and our church community together to remember and celebrate those honored lives.
The offering this morning is going to go to Planned Parenthood. We chose that because of all the services that they do for women, vital to the women, especially those living in poverty. Your offering will be gratefully received.
Put on your face, know your place. Shut up and smile, don't spread your legs. I could do that, but no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, if I just lie still, would I be a monster, scare them all away? If I let them hear what I have to say, I can't keep quiet, no. I can't keep quiet, no. I can't keep quiet. No, no, I can't keep quiet. No, I can't keep quiet. No, 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 I won't keep quiet.
In our time of meditation, remember in silence the women of our church and all women who have influenced and enriched your life.
Nel cor più non mi sento brillar la gioventù, cagion del mio tormento. Amor, sei colpa tu, mi pizzichi, mi stuzzichi, mi pungichi, mi mastichi. Che cosa è questo in me? Pietà, 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 amore incerto che disperar mi fa.
Imagine that you're on the second floor of the church house, near the stairs to the third floor. Watch out, here come the kids. In the years when Sally Andrews was the supervisor of grades 1 through 4 of character school, every Sunday morning you would see a stampede of children running up the stairs to their classrooms. From 1966 until 1985, Sally was there, planning curriculum, making teaching aids, welcoming parents, encouraging teachers, and telling stories to illustrate lessons. A former elementary school teacher from Grand Rapids Public Schools, she was a renowned team builder who recognized and nurtured the skills of her teachers. Children in her department learned about unity, diversity, and inclusion. They were exposed to stories from the Bible and other major religions. They were well prepared to engage with others, including those who did not experience character school at Fountain Street Church. During her tenure, perhaps 1,000 children were enriched by her work. But like the names of so many women of our church, you must look deeply into our past history to find her. It was said of Sally that she was one of a handful of individuals who served the church so diligently and for so many years. Still, hours of researching the church archives brought forth only one article and one picture of her. Sally was my mother. I fondly and clearly remember her as a pillar of character school. She poured her heart, soul, and love into her work every week. She spent many evenings at home working on lessons and materials for the character school children and the teachers that she supervised. Tuesday mornings were devoted to planning and preparing with character school supervisors of the younger and older children. Through the years, several great women served in these roles, including Myrtle Starr, Harlene Gedris, Jo Mason, Ruth Saddam, and Jane Evans. Every Tuesday, they would meet with Jack Bowers, the Minister of Education, to discuss curriculum for the following Sunday. In the early years, the 1960s, Dorothy Evenson was also a member of this team. After Tuesday morning's planning sessions, they would often go out to lunch, sometimes to the Kent Room at Herpelsheimer's. While attending junior college, I occasionally had the good fortune to join these luncheons. Sometimes Vera Morris would join us. These were special opportunities that I will always cherish. On Sunday mornings, Mom left home early for church to ensure that all would be ready for the week's character school lessons. My dad, brother, and I would go to church separately and arrive closer to the 11 o'clock church time. A special challenge that I remember for character school supervisors and teachers was timing. They programmed for an hour of interaction with children, but back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for Duncan Littlefair to give an especially long sermon. And it was common then for the service to last well over an hour. I remember my mother and other supervisors talking about this. They'd say, "It was 12:20 p.m. and he's still talking." At that time, it was a frustrating exercise for them. But now when I look back at those times, I just smile. Every Sunday, my mother left the house early, and she was often one of the last to leave church on Sunday afternoons. She was very dedicated. Her dedication did not end with character school, as she was also an active church guild member, including the Women's Association. And she was all around deeply involved in Fountain Street Church as a member throughout her adult life. Sadly, Sally's life was cut short by cancer. She passed away at age 68. If she was with us today, she would be 90 years old. Her family and friends, especially my brother Matt and myself, miss her dearly. We are humbled and deeply grateful that her dedication and devotion to Fountain Street Church and to Character School is being recognized here today. Thank you.
Dorothy Leonard Judd was born in 1898 to a prominent Grand Rapids family. Her grandfather had invented the electric refrigerator. She was the fourth generation of Fountain Street Church members. Although privileged, her family believed in doing public service and were strong role models. She was influenced by them and the values of Fountain Street Church in the formulation of her ideas and interests. Dorothy Leonard Judd was an author, a legislator, a policymaker who fought to improve the lives of ordinary citizens. For a lifetime, she was a strong feminine voice for liberal and progressive reform of government and equal rights for all. Her influence went far beyond Fountain Street and far beyond Grand Rapids. She once said that sometimes she didn't want to get involved in an issue, but when she was aroused, she couldn't hold herself back. If something needed to be done, she did it. Here are just a few examples. As a teacher, she realized that there was no adequate textbook of local government, so she wrote one. Our City Government was published in 1948. The book was used for years as civics text in city schools and was in demand as a model by other cities in all parts of the country. When she wanted to pass down her considerable knowledge,
in interpreting the church's Romanesque architecture, symbolism, windows, and art treasures. She wrote several brochures and, in 1977, a book, The Art and Architecture of Fountain Street Church. She started a library for tour guides that is still used today. Over the years, she held almost every position in the church, including sometime advisor to Duncan Littlefair. When she saw that the old leaders of the suffragettes were tired after their long struggle for voting rights, finally won in 1919, she joined the League of Women Voters and became one of its most active members. Issues then were infant mortality, child labor, voter registration, women getting into politics, among others. She became local president of the League, and within 10 years, rose to be national director. She was bothered by government corruption and inefficiency. She fought the party boss system, where shoddy political party loyalties determined who got government jobs. She served, chaired, and presided over many committees, boards, and commissions, working for a merit-based employee system. She was the architect of the merit-based Michigan civil service system. One of her crowning achievements was getting it adopted by constitutional amendment in 1939. She was recognized as a national expert, and other states came to Michigan to learn. She worked on issues of welfare reform during the Depression, curbing population growth, freedom of religion and separation of church and state, ending nuclear and chemical arms races, civil rights, and ensuring clean water. As an elected delegate to CONCON, the State Constitutional Convention in 1963, she was able to get provisions into the Constitution that require the Michigan legislature to provide for the protection of air, water, and other natural resources from pollution and destruction. After retirement, she summed up her philosophy regarding public service by saying that even though tangible rewards were few, there is the exhilaration of freedom to serve in the public interest and to exercise the right of each citizen to affect public affairs. On October 25, 1990, she was inducted into the Michigan Woman's Historical Center and Hall of Fame.
You've heard about one woman who was well known in the church and the character school, and one that was well known in the church, in the city, and beyond. But it takes people of all kinds to help make things happen. The woman I'm presenting today is not familiar to most of you. In 1967, I met her when she presented the program for a Women's Association meeting. She was then 92, and I was 37. It was an intergenerational experience for me. Her name was Bessie Hugesteiger. I went to my computer. Up popped information in the 1940 census. She was listed as a widow, boarding with the Abernathy family. I learned that her family had had boarders when she was growing up. She had married Marius Dane Hugesteiger, and their only son had died before his first birthday. In our church archives, reading mostly the 1940s Women's Association minutes, it was such fun visiting old friends. And there she was, Mrs. M.A. Hugesteiger. Although they called each other by their first names, the custom of the time was to identify women by their husband's name. He was their identity. Bessie had been president of the gay division, often chairman of the nominating committee, and chairman of publicity. Comments were made that she's always on the job, and she ably cared for publicity. At the Women's Association meeting, she shared several of her award-winning poems. I was impressed by her ability to recognize and express people's feelings. In a poem entitled Rooms to Rent, a man is looking for a room, one he described as being too glum. Then from the window, he spied a glistening dogwood tree. The poem ends, she would not guess, when paying her the fee, I was renting for a spell the dogwood tree. Perhaps as a renter, she'd had such an experience. We've come a long way in recognition and rights for women, but in her poem, The Unwritten Note, one gets a feeling for the lack of marriage rights for women. We buried you today, your friends and mine, the secret of our life forever sealed. I stand emotionless, a stony stare, while others gave release to tears. I cannot weep. For me, you died 10 years ago, that fateful night when you confessed, my love for you is dead. Dead love can never be revived. It was then I wept unceasingly. We pledged a covenant that night. Society must never know, you said. Convention's laws remain unchanged. If I should meet another love, I'll write a note and go. 10 years without a kiss, a touch, a sign, two exiles self-imposed in a lonely, frigid home. How cruel can a marriage vow become? No, I cannot weep today. The floodgates of a shattered life are closed. Now let's sing. Another quote, this one from Amelia Earhart. A single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and make new trees. That led us to think about hymn number 123, so please join me in singing.
Penny.
And I'm Tatum Fettig.
And we are in Fountain Club, and we are Women of the Future.
Our continuing challenge will be to find areas of need where we can help bring peace, hope, and justice wherever it is not happening. Fountain Street Church has always looked for missing pieces in meeting the needs of the church, our community, and beyond. Today, many new groups and activities have started here. For example, Parents Circle,
The Memorial Guild,
book discussion groups,
Connections Group,
poetry therapy,
Beyond Sunday,
the Women's March, with cars going to Lansing, 6 buses to Washington, D.C., and several thousand people in our church building.
Planned Parenthood for 6 weeks in Tower Club.
Moms Demand Action.
As we've pointed out, our world is very changed. Back when women were identified by their husband's name and limited in their rights and what kind of work they could do, they found expression for their talents in leadership in churches, volunteerism, and women's groups. Today, the field is wide open.
We cannot be quiet. We can free our minds, grow our souls, and change the world. All the flowers of all the tomorrows are in the seeds of today.
If recognizing the interdependency of all life, am I too early? Am I too early? If recognizing the interdependency of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we have gathered will take us forward. Be like a bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide, feels them give way beneath her, and sings and sings and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like a bird that, pausing in her